up, everyone? Ida here, mom of The Literal Life. Yes, I have revamped my channel once again. I should have known, as a creative by nature, that narrowing down my channel to just reselling and thrifting, it was never going to last. And so since I love sharing certain aspects of our lives, I figured, you know what? I'm just going to recreate. That's what I'm good at. And so here we are with The Literal Life. So I'm going to be sharing content on our personal training studio, health and fitness. I'll still be throwing in content on reselling and our thrift store hauls, home life. We're throwing in some homeschooling and of course, debt freedom, journey that we're going on. I mean, again, this will be content that I hope, you can take snippets from, maybe a whole video content, and hopefully it's fun, informative, and if there's anything that you would like to see, anything that you might be interested in or wanting to know more about, feel free to leave your ideas, feedback, questions in the comments below. But if you're new to my channel, I would be so grateful if you would subscribe. I promise you, you will enjoy the content that I have to share. All right, guys, thanks for tuning back in. So in today's episode, I really just wanted to kind of share and maybe even get some feedback from you guys on how we got to the point of deciding on homeschooling. For myself, I went through the public school system growing up. I was never exposed to homeschooling, either be myself, family, friends. It really wasn't until we had kids and we were looking and researching into the different types of education that we can provide for our children. And so the options, at least for us as two working parents outside of the home, it was putting our children into the public school system. We decided on doing what is called an optional program. It's a lottery school where it's more hands-on approach. Families are encouraged to be in the classroom, and the best decision that we could ever make. And so with our older two, they went through the optional program, and then of course, when the twins came along 7 years later, we just knew that we were going to put them also through the optional program. We didn't look for any other options after that. And of course, here comes COVID. Now, rewind again. I've always had an interest in homeschooling. I've always looked into it. I knew that eventually, after working, that I would at some point transition into being more present in my children's education. And so I've worked in the corporate world, 9-to-5 job for 2 decades. And the twins were starting kindergarten just in 2019. And I was transitioning out of the corporate world and being able to be more focused on our family business, that I figured, maybe it might be a good opportunity that I, can be more present in the classroom. Well, again, COVID hit in March of 2020, and so we all had to transition into online learning. Now, for us here in Alaska, our spring break is mid-March, and so that's when we received word that schools would be closing down. Everyone transitions over into online learning, but unfortunately there was no incentive with that. And understandably, with something, being kind of thrown into onto families, especially with those parents that were having to transition from working outside of the home into the home, and then also needing to manage their children online, it's quite understandable how there would not be any incentives to keep the children learning. And so it was really almost like a cluster of different, the right word to say this, but a lot of families just felt like it was just a flop. You know, they issued out discounted Wi-Fi and tablets and laptops for families, and unfortunately they just kind of, you know, went to the wayside. And we felt that too. You know, we were on board with online learning, and we were like, gosh, it still is kind of interesting in a way, because, you know, they weren't being graded. This was all mainly on a volunteer basis, you know, whatever you can attend, whatever you're able to participate in. And so that was kind of interesting to see how that all panned out through at least the remainder of their school year. But at the same time, it was an opportunity for us to be proactive, and in, you know, keeping tabs with how COVID was developing. We had a pretty good, at least through what we decided to research, and our instincts were that it's probably just best, in order to keep consistency for our children, to go ahead and look into homeschooling. And so right off the bat, I want to say in April, we decided that we were going to start researching what type of homeschooling that we were going to do. Of course, budgeting was a bit of a shock, and so we decided that we were in fact going to go with a public homeschooling program that offered allotments. And so we were pleasantly surprised at the different programs that have allotments for families. And so we did decide on a program called IDEA. And since then, you know, I've just been researching curriculums and tuning in with homeschooling moms like Christy Clover, and just really studying up on the different ways to just, you know, kind of do like a warm introduction into homeschooling for my family and what would work for us. Our oldest, he is going to be a senior this year, and he's going to go ahead and just stay with the school district and their virtual learning online program, because also he will be able to still participate, knock on wood, but he'll be able to still participate in football. So he'll still be home, but I'll still be able to check in on him every once in a while. Independent learning, that's his style, so I'm really happy that he'll be able to still have access to his teachers, because at his level with his honors and AP courses, preparation for testing, college exams, so forth, I'm very grateful that that his teachers in high school are going to be available for him. As far as my 8th grader and our soon to be, or now first graders, I'm really excited that I'll be able to be homeschooling them. Gosh, where did I go with this? Anywho, as I used to be a working mom, and what I was researching was wanting to see those homeschooling parents that were able to transition from working the 9-to-5 jobs over into homeschooling. You know, did you decide that it was going to be more of a short-term, long-term type situation, or maybe are you just kind of winging it and seeing how it goes? You know, I looked near and far, and you know, I'm in some local homeschooling Facebook groups, and I really wasn't finding a lot of resources from parents who made that decision or made that transition from working 9-to-5 outside of the home into now having to homeschool. So if you are a parent or homeschooling parent, I guess I don't care if you're new or, you know, you've been doing it for a while. But if you are a homeschooling parent who experienced that transition, I'd love to hear your story. I'd love to see what you've done and what's worked for you. I feel that, as much as I feel that I'm prepared, I definitely feel that I could still, take in some, different approaches. I think every day is going to be different with homeschooling, but also making sure that I can still, manage the different hats that I wear. And so, again, I'd love to hear kind of what your take has been and how that transition has been for you. At least for us, I feel like it has become a calling, if you will, and that I'm an optimist, and so looking at COVID in a light of, it's brought our family closer. It's definitely allowed me to look into my businesses, and I'm actually excited because I'm going to be using my degree for its sole purpose. And so I'm creating a project right now that I'm excited to launch in 2021. So a lot of great things that we're taking out of this whole pandemic situation, and that also being homeschooling. So with all of that being said, I think just being able to use this time to write out the pros and the cons and figure out what we feel may work, and just allowing ourselves to, again, have a warm introduction when we start into homeschooling and figure out really what is going to be our new family dynamic with homeschooling. So I don't know, maybe this was an informative video. Maybe this was just a video asking for those of you out there that, again, were working parents and transitioning into homeschooling. How has that transition been for you? And I look forward on talking with you. Again, thanks for tuning into my channel. I do hope that, again, that these videos are informative for you. And I look forward on sharing the next episode. I already have in mind kind of what our setup is going to be, and I look forward on sharing that with you guys. So till then, take care, be kind, and we'll see you next time.